Congratulations, Alice. Thank you so much. Okay, now into the program. Seems weird, me doing the program, but we're just going to have to watch it. So just bear with me. I liked what Joelle did last year by giving you a little bit of a kind of new member profile and then telling a little bit about the trip that you took to Rotary International Convention. So that's what I'm going to do also. So, I have a question for you. Where is the hub of the universe? Tuscaloosa, Alabama. All time. So, how did a girl born in the hub of the universe get to Lakeland and a president of the Lakeland Rotary Club? For those of you who know our past president, our past member, Carolyn Jackson, so many of us went through Leadership Lakeland with her. She had this expression of, open the kimono a little bit. So that's what I'm going to do with you today and just let you know a little bit about the person that will be standing at this podium over the next year. And then I'm going to share a little bit about my experience also in Hamburg. So I was born to Morgan and Ruth Wallace, and my dad was a proud World War II veteran, served in Europe, and he was like most of the veterans. He never talked about it. I know he was in Paris after the fall, and that's about all I know. I was the middle of 3 children, and there I am on the far right. And my mom was a dietitian at the local hospital. She ran the dietary department for all of my life, and my dad had a barber shop on the University of Alabama campus. And the landscape of my backyard looked like this. And we had a little stadium there and played a little football on the weekends. And so my parents took me to ball games at that little stadium. It wasn't quite that big at the time. But all my life, really before I can even remember, I was going to ball games at the University of Alabama. As children, my sister and I, we were 17 months apart. We were pretty much raised as twins. But my sister and I spent a lot of Saturday afternoons with my dad at his shop, which was a lot like Floyd's Barbershop on Mayberry. And this is the honest truth. There we would listen. It was right on campus, right on the edge of campus on University Boulevard. And there we would listen to the news and the gossip of the customers who were coaches, players, professors, student athletes. Adjacent to the university campus were 2 major state hospitals. One was Partlow State Hospital for those with mental disabilities, and then Bryce Hospital for the mentally ill. They were large hospitals with thousands of patients each. And occasionally a patient from either hospital would wander off the grounds, and there must have been an underground message system, because invariably they would make their way to my dad's barbershop on the other side of campus. And there my dad would let them stay in his shop all day, and he would just bring them home for dinner at night. And so my mom would just smile and set another place at the table and show them a good dose of Southern hospitality. And then Dad would send us kids to the neighbors, where he would finally call the police to come pick the patient up. And sometimes this involved straitjackets. And I don't know, I thought all this was normal. I never found out whether my dad knew that we watched through the window and saw the straitjackets and the violence that sometimes occurred when the patients were leaving. But the details of those patients sitting at our dinner table with us has faded. But what remains is the impact that it had on me to watch my dad and my mom treat those patients with the same dignity and respect and kindness that they treated Bart Starr, Joe Namath, Bear Bryant, or the president of the university. Bart Starr's recent death reminded me of this note that he sent my dad just weeks after he led the Green Bay Packers to victory in what was to be the first Super Bowl in 1967. The range of my dad's friends was a life lesson to me on the value of every person. The first major fork in the road in my life was the summer before my senior year in college at the University of Alabama. I sold books door to door in North Georgia for the Southwestern Publishing Company. Have y'all ever heard of that company? Oh my gosh, it was the best and worst job of my life. After a week of intensive training, really brainwashing at sales school in Nashville, they sent 2,000 college students out all over the country to knock on doors. We sold door to door. We work alone. We worked 13 hours a day, 6 days a week, and you walked all day long. If you didn't sell books, you had no money to eat. Sunday, the only day off, my roommate and I drove 4 hours round trip to a sales meeting. So this job showed me pretty quickly what I was made of. And it may sound like a drastic claim, but that job is literally the one and only reason that I'm an attorney today. Until that summer, the thought of being an attorney or going to law school had never crossed my mind. Nobody in my family had ever been an attorney. I'd never been exposed to that field of profession. But after being on the book field all summer, college was a vacation. And I was determined to stay in and stay on my daddy's payroll. So graduation was looming, and so I knew I had to go to graduate school. But graduate school for what? I had no idea. I had no goals. All I wanted to do was, I was like, get up every day, breath in, breath out, you know. And so on this quest, I visited my sister, who was the brains of our family, and she was in medical school at the time. But one trip to the gross anatomy lab with her to see the cadavers, and going into the refrigerator with her to retrieve the brain that she was dissecting that day, let me know right away that the medical field was not for me. So I came home from visiting my sister, and graduation was getting closer and closer. So I was dating a guy at the time whose life goal was to be an attorney. He talked about it all the time and studied for this test called the LSAT. I had no idea what it stood for, but a week before he went to take the test, I announced that I too was going to go take the test. So I showed up, hadn't registered, showed up with my checkbook. They let me take the test, and all I'll say about that is that I went to law school and he didn't. And this is me at graduation, my brother's standing by me, and this is also the time of my life when I was working on my melanoma. What was I thinking? Oh my gosh, I graduated from Cumberland School of Law in Birmingham, and my first job was as an assistant district attorney in Scottsboro in North Alabama, and that's very much like what Lori Winstead does here, just has a different name in Alabama. I was the only female attorney in town. In fact, people literally came in off the street to see what a lady lawyer looked like. In fact, just being a lady lawyer made front page news. I was literally sitting at my desk, and the reporter came in with his camera and said, "Can I take your picture and write an article on you?" So, Scottsboro was a small town, but we fought really big time crime in Scottsboro. Our biggest outlaws, it was a dry county, so our biggest outlaws were the two bootleggers. And so we often arrested them, as you can see here with our truckload of confiscated beer. We often arrested the bootleggers on Monday, and we tried them on Thursday so that they could pay their fine and be back in business on Friday. My next fork in the road was my decision to leave the district attorney's office and head back to Tuscaloosa. I had accepted a teaching position at the University of Alabama School of Law. And that one-year commitment turned into 18. It was a great chapter in my life, and I'll forever love the University of Alabama Law School. I was comfortable there and assumed I would stay there for the rest of my career. But I went to a national conference for elder law attorneys in the mid-90s in Arizona. And at that time, there were 0 attorneys in Alabama in private practice in elder law. 0. I was the one and only attorney in the entire state who was certified as an elder law attorney. So these attorneys that I was out there with, we went to dinner one night, and over that one dinner, these people who I had just met convinced me that even in Alabama, it was possible to earn a living practicing in the field of elder law. Now that I think of it, most of these people had never probably even been to Alabama. But just on their word, these people that I had just met, I came home and I quit my cushy little secure job, and I left my dream home that I had designed and built, and I moved to Huntsville and opened an elder law practice there with one partner. Now, we had no money to speak of and no clients. We were terrified that the phone would not ring. Well, it rang all right, but everybody wanted an appointment with Mr. Elder. So we spent a lot of our first years explaining to people that elder is not who we are, it's what we do. So we've come a long way. So we ended up with a thriving practice, and my plan again was to stay there until retirement. But just when I got it like I liked it, the phone kept ringing from Lakeland, Florida. And my law school classmate and friend, Mark Clements, kept calling and throwing out the idea of me coming to Lakeland to practice with him. So 11 years ago, for the 3rd time in my career, I left my nice, stable, secure circumstances and moved where I wasn't licensed to practice law. I knew only one person in the entire state. I had no personal or business connections and no apparent avenue for gaining clients. So sounds like an obvious path for success, right? I can't deny that I'm a risk taker. That's probably become apparent, hasn't it? I've always taken the road that's most challenging with the most unknowns. I tend to leap out on faith, but so far my guardian angel, who is very overworked, has never failed to provide a very soft landing for me. I've been very blessed. Most of my life-altering decisions have been made in the span of 1 hour or less. And you may say, like my mother, that I make rash decisions. And I wouldn't necessarily disagree with you. And I don't recommend this path for everybody, but it has worked for me. Because every time that I move and am forced to start over from scratch, it really does, it has a way of stripping you down to the core of who you are. You find out once again what you're made of. I think this came from what I learned on the book field. And kind of you are who you are, and you travel with you wherever you move. But it strips me down to my core, and you have to start over without those trappings of success or influence, and you just have to put yourself out there, improve yourself again, and stay on top of your game and meet new people. So it keeps you growing. But I promise not to do anything rash with our club over the next year, like wake up one morning and change our charter to a Kiwanis Club. In my personal time, spending time with family is high on my list. We're a close clan. Here we are casually in our Wallace tartans. And I can't talk about my family without just mentioning my brother Stan, who we lost 5 years ago to cardiac arrest. And I know some of y'all in this room have been through that same thing. And I know that not every person can be saved, but the experience that we went through makes me really proud of the project this club has with our AEDs, and I hope that we continue that effort. My sister and sister-in-law are my 2 traveling buddies. They're the 2 Lindas. Hiking in our national parks is one of our favorite pastimes. Now this one is Machu Picchu. It was just me and my sister. This is the hike. I show you this because this is the hike that I thought I would die on. I had just moved to Florida. I literally took my suitcase down and went and got on a plane. And I was very out of shape. I have not trained at all for this elevation. And I came back and I was telling my brother about this wonderful treatment they had down there for altitude sickness and headache, nausea, my fingernails were turning blue, whatever ailed you. I said, my guy just kept giving me coca tea and I chewed coca plants the whole time. And he said, Carol, you know that's where cocaine comes from. Well, that worked. pays to be a ditzy blonde. Oh my gosh. So my last trip is always my favorite. There's Fort Machu Picchu. That's actually in Ireland. You can skip that one. Several members of our family went to Utah last year and hiked a lot of the national parks in Utah. It was awesome. I recommend it if you have been. I love to read. I'm still in my Alabama book club named GRITS. It's an acronym for Girls Reading in the South. It's 12 women. We've been together for about 15 years now. So I get on the plane routinely and go back to read a book. I mean, how weird is that? But these women are, I would never have met any of these women. We're all from very diverse backgrounds, but our common thread is that love of reading. So after all the crazy turns that brought me to Lakeland, I've decided that if this Lakeland gig doesn't work out, I'm just going to move to the floating island of Euros in Peru and call it a day, because I love their fashions. Okay, now I'm going to change gears entirely. There's hardly any way to smooth transition. I want to take you for a few minutes to Hamburg with me, where this club was generous enough to send me to the Rotary International Convention in Hamburg, Germany in June, and it was a wonderful experience, so thank you very much. Hamburg is a city in North Germany. It's just a few miles from the North Sea. It's been the site of a city for over 1,000 years, but it's been destroyed off and on several times due to wars, and in fact the Allies did a real job on it in World War II. So a lot of it is very modern. It's got wide streets and a lot of modern aspects that other European cities don't have because of the destruction. It's the second or third largest port in Europe, and this is an aerial picture of their port area. The conference was not far from the port. It was within walking distance. The city really rolled out the red carpet for us. This was an old ship in the harbor with the sails, End Polio now. And their landmark is, the short name is Elfie. It's their concert hall. In the port area are old warehouse districts, so they didn't tear the warehouse down. They just built this glass modern structure on top of the warehouse. So the brick part is a warehouse is probably 100 years old. At the beginning, there's the warehouse section with Elfie in the background. The concert hall is right on the port. It's pretty spectacular. They had a 3K walk for In Polio Now at the beginning of the convention. And you've probably heard when other past presidents talk about the convention experience, about the House of Friendship. It's this huge space. They actually had 2 huge spaces of booths set up, and every imaginable Rotary Action Group, they call them RAGs, or Rotary Fellowship Group has an exhibit there. So it's kind of overwhelming, but the exhibitors are from all over the country, and they you know, just really help you see the scope of Rotary. At the opening session, now there were 26,000 attendees at the conference, and at the opening session, many of them wear their traditional attire. And so this is some women from an Asian country, I don't know which one, coming in. I just thought that was a beautiful photo. And you'll notice some of these I took, some of I didn't. So the ones that I did not take, including this one, have the photographer noted on the photo. Close to 40 people from our district attended, and we got together for socials and stayed in touch by social media. And I don't have a pointer on this thing, or either I don't know how to work it, but in the back there, you'll probably be able to see Bill Minozzi and his wife Christy were with us, and Mark Skolnick and Irma were there. And so that's our district social. And then we learned that just invite them and they'll come. John Huco is the man to my right, on the left on the photo. He is the General Secretary of Rotary International, so he's the head honcho in Chicago. So all we did was ask him to come by our social, and lo and behold, he comes, and he's just like us. His home club is in Ukraine. He was born in Ukraine, even though he lives in America now. And the guy in the front is Dr. Donna here. You may recognize Donna's husband, Kevin McWilliams. He's the incoming president of Lakeland South, so he was with us as well. and past district governor right there in the middle, George Robertson, serenading us. We had a great time. And our incoming, now he is Rotary International President, Mark Maloney, and his wife Gay. Small world, he's from Decatur, Alabama. Decatur and Huntsville, where I lived, are just, well, they're closer really than Bartow even. They're just across the river from each other. And actually, I was in, my Rotary Club in Alabama was Mark Maloney's club. We were in the same club in Alabama. He and his wife are both attorneys. We had offices literally around the corner from each other. But by the time I joined Rotary there, Mark was already on the upward path for service in Rotary, so he really wasn't at the club meetings that much. He was off leading international projects and the like. But he and his wife both have been great servants of Rotary for decades already. Mark Maloney's theme for this year is Rotary Connects the World, and I'm going to use his words to describe his vision. Rotary allows us to connect with each other in deep and meaningful ways across our differences. It connects us to people we would never otherwise have met, who are more like us than we ever could have known. Rotary connects us to our communities, to professional opportunities, to the people who need our help. In this ever more divided world, Rotary connects us all. Got this cute little animated. All right. So in my Rotary journey, I became a member of Rotary in Alabama, in Mark Maloney's club. But I became a Rotarian in this club. And I have to say this without crying. When I came and stood at this podium 10 or 11 years ago, giving my new member profile, I didn't know anybody. And I don't know why I remember this, but the first 3 people that lined up to tell me welcome were Mark Hollis, Ralph Allen, and Buddy Fletcher. I don't know why I remember that, but I did. I didn't know who they were, but I kept coming every week, and I watched people in this club. And I watched them put their money where their mouth is, and I watched them live out the 4-way test in their daily lives. And I thought, wow, these people are the real deal. I want to be part of this. And so I have loved every minute of being in this club, and I hope to be here lots and lots longer. So that's what turned me into a Rotarian. It had very little to do with me. It had to do with the leaders of our club. So my goal for this club is very simple. Over the next year, it is to turn members into Rotarians. Thank you.